I've been forced to face my worst memories. I have read over 20,000 news articles, looked at hundreds of accident sites. I've climbed out into the middle of the Beltway in DC. I've done some pretty crazy stuff. I've traveled over 10,000 miles and looked at probably over 100,000 miles of roads in every continent on Google Street View. Most importantly, I conducted hundreds of field inspections and installed and damaged X-Lites. This morning out in Loudoun County, I was digging in the dirt looking for bolts, and I found some. Here's a part of what I've discovered. The X-Lite was tested by Safe Technologies, a wholly owned subsidiary of the Lindsay Corporation. The X-Lite was tested with known obsolete testing standards. In a blatant violation of ISO section 17025, the signer of the X-Lite test reports managed the test facility at the same time he was developing the products he was testing. The X-Lite received 5 of 28 potential tests, and the other 23 were waived.
No.
The X-Lite, you are required by law to report any changes that you made during testing. They reported 9. I found 89. And these are substantive and material changes. The X-Lite test reports are filled with errors, omissions, and even blatant objective falsification. The X-Lite test reports show that 5 tests were run. Those tests were reportedly run on 9 different days. And this is huge. There is photo evidence of multiple additional tests run during the X-Lite testing, including a car that was impaled in the testing and serial testing, which is blatant violations of the law. Sadly, my investigation has obtained information which shows our Federal Highway Administration has been complicit and enabled the Lindsay Corporation's deadly malice. On April 4th, 2017, the Federal Highway Administration received from our state DOT a letter detailing several concerns. Less than a month later, the Federal Highway Administration issued a memo claiming the X-Lite was, quote, not unsafe. FOIA emails and documents show this document was very flawed. Federal Highways expert had been with them for just weeks, and at the time the memo was issued, she had more experience as a desk dorm room attendant than as a professional engineer. 6 documents from the agency said FHWA could not use the data they used. It would be insufficient to do what they did. And their own documents say what they did, quote, could be deceptive. Now this is important. If you are a leader and you see something wrong, take a stand. Speak out. In June 2018, in a phone call with a senior retired federal highway official, Nick Artemovich broke the wall of silence. He tipped me off that the Federal Highway Administration knew of the performance concerns involving the Guardrail end terminal that killed my daughter in 2015 and 2016. This allowed me to prepare very focused FOIAs. I received my first batch, and a very interesting thing happened. My next batch, they requested $10,000 before they would fulfill it. I'm not saying they acted guilty, but what I learned was there were minutes from a meeting on June 30th, 2016 that showed every concern that the Tennessee Department of Transportation had been identified by the Federal Highway Administration. There were 85 photos that were described as extraordinary, with multiple piercing incidents and multiple concerns identified by our DOT. And this was 10 months before our DOT notified them. Emails from Mr. Artemovich showed him warning the California Department of Transportation and, quote, crashes where the X-Lite did not perform as intended. Michael Griffith, FHWA's Director of Safe Technologies, on June 29th, 2016, said, "Do you plan on updating us with the latest on the X-Lite?" That is the same day that Lauren Butel and Jacob Davison were fatally impaled in Cumberland County. The TDOT letter was not a warning for our Federal Highway Administration. It was a confirmation. FHWA's Office of Safety has breached the public trust. They have enabled the Lindsay Corporation's deadly malice. Individuals, including my daughter, have been brutally maimed and killed, while our Federal Highway Administration has conducted a public relations response to a public safety crisis. There are multiple individuals at the Federal Highway Administration who have engaged in conduct unbecoming a federal employee. Other FOIA records, let me share. Tennessee DOT describing the performance as, quote, historic. Arizona DOT saying, quote, there was constructability challenges. Rhode Island DOT, quote, quality concerns. New Hampshire DOT, this thing is, quote, too fragile. Georgia DOT, some issues with performance. Virginia DOT, concerns with testing. Colorado DOT, after a thorough review of test reports, we recommend no further installations of the X-Lite. Florida DOT, when seeking support, said, you failed to timely address these concerns. Open records and transparent government saves lives. It exposes the incompetent and it exposes the corrupt. I can accept that my Hannah died. What I cannot accept is that your child could potentially die too because of this issue. Our federal government failed my daughter. In the next weeks, days, I, along with several of these other victims' families, we intend to call on the United States Department of Justice and the Office of the Inspector General of the United States Department of Transportation to open a criminal investigation of into the actions of the Lindsay Corporation and others. We will continue to engage with senators and congressmen and state and local politicians with the goal of a full national recall. We have 11 states to go. As allowed by our Constitution, we want congressional oversight of the Federal Highway Administration and their misconduct. As I move towards closing, I want to speak about just a couple more things. One is a concept called regulatory capture. The state of Tennessee, we have a duty to be business friendly, but we cannot simply act as stooges for the insurance industry and for the road builders. I want to know why. Why do we have artificial caps on punitive damages in this state of $750,000? Why are we robbing juries of the right to provide damages in accordance with the crime that was committed? Our state caps punitive damages at $750,000, and that is simply unacceptable. What the Lindsay Corporation has done to our family, what they did to the Butel family, what they have done to the Davison family, the Arshad family, the Bird family, families all across this country, it deserves to be punished. And we cannot simply hide under this idea of tort reform and say that is acceptable. Lastly, we must keep an open and transparent government. Liberty protects our citizens. A few years back, Tennessee went red to the roots. If we do not guard those values we hold dearest, we risk becoming rotten to our core. It is not acceptable that Tennessee ever become the red state version of California. We must value liberty above all. I want to close with this. On Christmas Day, 1863, the church bells rang out in Cambridge, Massachusetts. In the midst of the valley of the shadow of death, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow wrote this poem. And in despair, I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said. He continued, but pealed the bells more loud and sweet. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong will fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill towards men. I am confident that the right will prevail here, but we must do that by seeking justice, loving mercy, and walking humbly with God.